Be sure to hit the like button as you're coming on in. Chris, don't shake the screen. It's dark in here.
As white as can be. Oh, Chicago.
Hey, Steve.
Ohio. Hey, Steve. Tennessee. Maryland. Maryland. Former home of Bretta, USA.
The land of taxes.
Victor, New York.
He's in the land of taxes.
Yeah.
And your mother complaining about taxes going up.
Arizona. New York, another New Yorker. Libya. This is our first thing, our first one. Yeah. Salam alaikum. Minnesota. Philly. I just always think this is cool seeing just the wide variety of people.
His Rain Man performance.
Yeah. Dallas, Texas.
Well, hopefully he'll be awake and he can get through a lot of questions tonight. He just took a nap in my office while I was working.
Kentucky. California behind the lines.
We have a lot of California in here tonight.
St. Louis, Houston, Southern Illinois. Utah.
It's Colton's first time to a live stream. Well, welcome,
Awesome.
Colton.
North Carolina.
Couple more seconds, we'll get going. Nap while working too. Well, I wasn't napping. I was working. He was napping, but he napped in my office.
Killeen, Texas.
Thank you, Ryan. Okay, guys, we're going to get started. If you guys would like to donate tonight to our endeavors in keeping SAS going as a non-sponsored, non-shilling channel, you can do so by using the super chat function and the $sign and get your question up there. You'll get a guaranteed response. Our preferred method is DonorBox. That link is on smallarmsolutions.com.
Hey, Brent.
But I will also plop it into the chat line here too. DonorBox only takes about 4 or 5%. Google takes 30% of all your donations that you make. So if you can do DonorBox, that would be great. We'd appreciate it. You don't have to donate to get a question asked, but you know, it keeps us going and pays for the internet to do these live streams. So I let people submit some questions earlier for donations, and so that's going to take me about 5 minutes, and then I'll start pulling from the chat. And if you guys would like to donate or just thank us for tonight, we'd appreciate it. Dustin is up first. Were 30 round magazines used for the by the U.S. in Vietnam?
Towards the end of the war, probably at the 68, 69, then you started seeing the prototypes come out. But yes, they were later on in the war, though.
And then we have Kevin from DonorBox. Thank you, Kevin. What is the preferred measurement setup to quantify the impulse profile, force as a function of time, to the hand or shoulder? There has to be an objective way to stop the marketing insanity of magic springs, buffers, and snake oil to reduce recoil. Objective measurements are possible.
There's a fixture that several manufacturers have had made up that measures recoil force. I can't really recall, because again, the companies I work for, you're talking about companies that make military rifles where, you know, you already have your specifications, everything's all set up. So it's, I can't really say as I've ever seen any of that kind of stuff done.
You're gonna have to put him down. He's too loud. He's right next to the mic and
Salt Terrier.
shaking his. Kirk on Donorbucks, thank you so much, Kirk. He had no question, but congratulations on the new office. We saw that today.
Thank you.
Adnan, thank you, Adnan.
Hey, Adnan.
He says he doesn't have any questions for tonight. Just wanted to send some. Well, thank you so much. We really appreciate it. Steve on DonorBox, when tuning an AR-15 rifle, is it better to run a heavier buffer spring and the lightest buffer possible, or standard carbine spring and increase the buffer weight?
Standard carbine spring. There's a couple different kinds of springs. If you notice that the Colt springs are more of a copper type color, that was a stronger spring than the original ones that were used in the original XMs and M16A1s. So that's why you'll always notice most of the time when you see Colt springs, they're a different color, and that did indicate the differences between the two. But your standard springs are the gun's designed for, and you add the weight. Quite frankly, the best time when I've used the heavier springs have been with the 9mm carbines.
And Triumph, thank you so much. He says, "Yay, it's Thursday night."
Thank you.
Ryan wants to know, are 80% lowers as good as quality as stripped lowers if machined properly?
Yeah, it's the same thing. Whether you machine them on your CNC machine or they machine them on theirs, the one thing that may be different is the finishing process. I mean, they're going to run them through rock tumblers and to get rid of edges, and they're going to be doing a lot of deburring and stuff like that. But it doesn't matter what machine does as long as it's done properly.
Do you have any thoughts on the durability of the rails on the Geisley Super Duty rifles? I was unable to find a public statement from Geisley having fixed them.
Again, I've not really seen them. Geisley's not a company that works with me that sends me things. I know you guys have asked quite a bit, but we have NRA coming up here in Houston in September. I'm going to try talking to them again to see if they will send me some things to take a look at. But as I said, I'll never give you guys opinions on things I don't have any experience with. That's just hearsay after that.
He has us very busy for the NRA show. He was telling me today.
Oh, yeah. Once we get a little bit further in, I got another announcement to make. So we'll wait for some more people to come in.
I'll be filming day and night.
Yes, you will.
What is your opinion on Cerakote gun finish? What about Norl's Moly resin?
Well, I've pretty much only used Cerakote a couple times. If you know me, I like my ARs black. I like the black rifle. I don't have anything that I've had Cerakoted. I think I only have one. Well, a couple. My AKs that were done by Vince Buckles, he Cerakotes those. And I have an LWRC 6.8 A5 that Cerakote. And all my guns, those are all the ones that are. Everything else is standard anodizing. It's certainly a strong finish. It's been well accepted. I've heard very little complaints about it. But that's generally for you guys who like those different color guns. Me, I'm not like that. I like traditional black or charcoal gray.
Which would you pick out of these? BCM, Geisley, Ancient Defense, Radian, LMT?
LMT, you have to always say that.
I have a whining dog down here. I'm
Who's
sorry.
very needy.
Hopefully. How long did you work at Colt and why did you leave? If you watch the video, who is Chris Bartacci, he goes over his complete resume and talks about his time at Colt.
Shall I answer it?
If you want to, sure. Yeah.
No, I was there just about 3 years. I wasn't popular with some people there because I was very good at finding problems in manufacturing and such. And Colt had a way of taking somebody who had a lot of energy and really stomping them into the ground because there's a lot of little rice bowls there. It didn't work out too well. So I had an engineer there who wasn't too fond of me because again, I was a troubleshooter. And in the end, I was laid off because I was writing when I worked for Colt. They knew that because I was paying over $1,200, $1,400 a month out of my salary per month to have the job because I drove from Hartford or from Rochester to Hartford 4 times a week. I stayed in a hotel and paid for my food. So I had to make up for that money. So I was writing, for Small Arms Review, 2 articles a month. So they knew I was writing. Well, I had written an article on LMT, and I had said something that was the same in my book on the history. And then that history was the LMT Enhanced Bolt Carrier Group was developed.
Fall down a rabbit hole.
That was asked for by SOCOM to Carl Lewis because they felt the M4 bolt was deficient. Well, they said that it was deficient, that I was anti-Colt, and they came after me for that.
We've said this so
It
many
was an
times,
excuse.
and we're going to waste time going
So
over questions over
it
the
was,
same thing over
yeah.
and over again. Matt on DonorBox wants to know, if you had to pick one Beretta 92 series pistol to rule them out, which one would it be?
I'd make my own. It would be an M9A1 with a Brigadier slide.
Sorry, you just go down that rabbit hole. We'll never
Oh,
get
yeah,
back out
that's
of
the
it.
question. I'm just trying to. They can look it up.
I know, that's what I mean. Like, we're already 10 minutes in, and just want to make sure we get through a lot of these. What would you consider the best buffer spring and weight for a true Mark 18 Mod O shooting BH Mark 262?
What it was designed for was a standard rifle weight, or standard rifle buffer and buffer spring. A standard rifle. That's what it was designed for. And that's around 5. That's around 5 ounces. So you would probably want at least an H3, probably in that. But it's what it's designed around is the rifle.
What was the best underrated unknown small arms of Vietnam? I've heard those Swedish Carl Gustaf M45s were loved by the SEALs.
Well, the SEALs love the Stoners. That was certainly one of the ones that they liked, but I probably would say that it was something that was they liked them, but the Stoners were never refined in Vietnam. It was really found that those extra features were not as useful as they thought that they were. And then once the M16A1s got online and they were fixed, there was no reason for them to go with anything else.
I know you said the BRN 180 isn't a rifle good enough for battle, but why do you think that? What do you think its flaws are?
Well, first off is accuracy. Second of all, it's like the AR-18, but probably not as good because of the the overall lengths and the way that it's a lot more sensitive to gas. It's not been put through the development for that. Maybe if it went through the testing and they found the flaws, perhaps they could make it that way. But there's a lot of really neat guns out there that are commercial guns you have fun with. They're not military grade, and that's okay. The BRN 180 was never designed with any intent of it going to military sales. It was designed for those of us who liked the old rifles, and we wanted something that was similar, just like their AR-10, the BRN 10. Was that a military grade rifle? No, but for those of us who appreciate the AR-10s, it's freaking awesome.
Colton on DonorBox. Thank you, Colton. He's the new guy from Utah.
Yes,
This
welcome.
is his first live chat. Any thoughts on the CZ P10F and 45 ACP? Have one and personally think it's awesome.
I just did a video not too long ago on the PTF 10F. However, I had contacted CZ about getting the 45 for review. Unfortunately, they said because there were so few of them made and such a high demand for them, they were not going to have any of them available for T&E for writers. I can guarantee if I ever get the opportunity to review one, I will. I'm actually quite anxious to, but I was told that they just weren't going to have enough of them to have for T&Es. They don't really need to market them when they're sold before they even get them, in the country.
I have a PSA KS47. Would a magnet buffer work with? I don't understand what he's saying. Work with instead of the H buffer to help better deal with recoil. Would it work better?
No, you need to leave that gun right the way that it is. That gun was designed with the buffer and the gas ports, everything in line, so it would work reliably. That is not one that you should be mixing and mashing parts with. That's why it actually uses an AR-10 buffer in it, a much stronger buffer with the weight. And that's what gets you the reliability with it. So quite frankly, I would totally leave that gun the way that it is. That's not one you need to do any modifications to.
Do you believe Caracal rifles are on par with LMT or BCM?
They are different. Well, BCM, they're nothing like it because BCM is all internal piston. Caracal, their main rifle is external piston. Let me say this: it's on par with the Sig 5. It's on par with the Sig 516 and the HK 416. I believe that solely because it's an evolution of those.
Which is more accurate inside of free float, and at what length twist between a chrome line barrel and non-chrome line barrel?
It's very, very interesting because I've gotten some pretty incredible accuracy out of some chrome line barrels. as long as the barrel is smooth when it's plated, you don't really see that much of a difference. But the plating, you're dulling up some of the edges. You're not getting as good of a grip. Your some of your imperfections are more notable. Um, it's really strange. Gun for gun, you're better off with the stainless steel if you want precision. If you're looking for a combat rifle, the chrome plating is always preferred. But again, you can get some chrome plated barrels that will shoot just as good. Like I have seen that.
I recently bought a Scar 17, and your video helped me seal the deal for me. He wants to know what would be a great do-all scope.
Well, because you have a Scar 17, there's a main one I would recommend, and that would be the LCAN Spectre. That was designed around that, so you will not have any problems with it coming apart. Again, you just spent probably $3,000 on a rifle. You're not going to put a cheap Bushnell on it. The manufacturer will tell you also that they say that it will not be harmed by the harmonics of the Scar 17. That's what I have on mine is the LCAN. I think it's a 1.5 to 6.
What are your thoughts on marketing and branding done by firearms companies? Is selling a lifestyle or the fun of shooting, i.e. Noveski, important?
I think what's really important about it is they're bringing in a lot of new shooters. And that's with all the problems that are happening today within the media and within the government. It's important to bring in new shooters to introduce them to the sport because because of political correctness, you really just don't have any more kids growing up with it as much, especially in these big cities where all the voters are. So I think it's pretty important, to bring in those new shooters.
What's your opinion on the IWI Xeon 15 AR?
I've got one on order. I've had one on order for quite some time. I'm very anxious to take a look at one. I've heard good things, but again, I haven't had one in my hands yet. I just finally got from IWI one of the new Gen 2 of the Gilil Ace. So stand by. I hope to have a review on one at some point in the not too distant future.
What's your opinion of the Bretta ARX 100?
I like it a lot. I do have a video on that that's solely on that, so I would recommend you go take a look at that for more details. The only problem I really had with the gun was the trigger. The trigger was awfully heavy, and it made my trigger finger very fatigued. And anybody who shoots them, that's probably the only complaint you're really ever going to hear from it. It is a polymer trigger, but the accuracy, great. Reliability, great. It's probably to date the most ambidextrous gun ever built around in a military rifle.
You'll love this one. A gentleman says, this man is a master, cut above the rest.
I appreciate that. Thank you. I learn every day, though. I learn every
As
day.
his wife, I tell him that
And there's lots of people out there who,
right, Chris?
yeah.
Every day I say, you're a master.
Master something. But I learn a lot every day, and a lot of you guys have provided me with stuff that I don't know. As I said, we always learn every day.
What's your opinion on the Bretta ARX 100?
You just asked that. You're telling me I'm master. I'm an idiot.
They all start to run together after a minute. Well, there was 2 opinions on somebody else. It was another gun too, and I was going up and then down. Sorry. Ryan was saying he was denied from buying. You'll love this. Denied from buying ammo in California because he had an unpaid parking ticket.
You got to get out of that state. That's we have a lot of people in here from California. I don't know how you guys do it. That in my home state of New York, you're looking at communist enclaves of this country, to say the least. I don't have words for that one, dude. I really don't.
How do you feel about dropping the new LMT 12.5-inch mid-length gas barrel into an older MRP quad-railed upper?
Very much interested. One of the problems I'm having with LMT now is getting product. They've got a lot of new stuff they're talking about. They have a live stream that comes on, and and Joe's talking to everybody and showing all this great new stuff. But it's going to be a while before we see any of it, to say the least. I was told I'm going to be getting one of the Estonia rifles. We just don't know when. They're showing a lot of stuff that you're just not going to get for God knows how long.
The assassin said, I left New York for a reason. We left New York for the same reason, probably. Best SR25 buffer length weight if looking to get a collapsible stock A5 or carbine.
Carbine, and I would go with the extended buffer for a 308 and use an H3 buffer. If you're looking to do that, just go to LMT's website if it's available and get their complete 308 buffer assembly, which is going to come with the proper spring and the H3 buffer.
Do you know who developed the bird cage flash hider?
It was Colt. It was at a request. I don't recall it being any kind of a patent on it because you can't. I mean, it's simple. If I had to guess, it probably would be Foster Sturdivant. He was the one who did a lot of the updates to the Colt products back then in those days. But it wasn't the first birdcage suppressor. I mean, you had the FAL before that. You even had the M14 before that. So it was just a matter of adapting it to that rifle.
This guy ordered a LaRue 308 Predator with an 18-inch barrel, and he feels like he made a mistake and he didn't get the 20-inch barrel. Can you make him feel better about his decision?
No. The reason being is not because you got a gun. You have a gun that I've never tested, and I don't know for sure, myself what the quality is or anything. I hear the same things that you do. LaRue is a company I've tried getting guns from for quite some time to do a test evaluation on, so I can see what people are talking about. But the only reason I can't make you feel better is I've not had the opportunity. I can't tell you anything bad about it, but I can't tell you anything from my personal experience because I just simply haven't been able to get my hands on one.
Can you recommend at least 3 top quality battle rifles?
Well, obviously, the M16 M4 platform is my number one, and I have to say that I'm quite fond of the CZ Bren 2. I mean, the scars up there. Again, not being an AR-15 family. Probably for professional rifles, those probably would be the top 3. There's going to be a video coming up where I'm going to be doing a comparison between the Scar 16 and the Bren 2. I mean, you guys probably saw the one I did on the 805 versus Bren 2. You probably know what I've already decided because of the 805 I felt that was a better gun than the Scar, and the Bren 2 is a massive improvement in many ways. Probably going to be the same thing as I'm going to prefer that one, but you'll be able to see why.
What do you think of the quality of currently made Springfield M1As?
They're decent. They're not to par with Beulah. And if you look at the review on Beulah, you can see the benefits in those hammer forged parts are vastly superior. And I don't consider those two guns of equal quality. M1A Supermatch, you can get the same thing from Beulah, but you're going to get all the hammer forged parts. Any of the modifications, triggers you can do to the Beulahs. But to make a stronger gun, I would definitely say Beulah would be a much better rifle to buy. And I spent a lot of time researching that video and going over the stuff and talking to engineers and whatnot. A lot went into that, and then talked to a lot of M14 aficionados who I think very highly of. So that's coming off of extremely good, well-knowledge people when I did my research on that.
Do you have a favorite camo pattern?
They call people from my day in the Army as grunt paws. Because we had the woodland camo. I mean, the way that goes is if you had OD green, you're a great grunt paw. If you had woodland camo, you were grunt paw. If you had ACUs, you were grunt. And if you have the new ones, you're baby grunts. So I guess being a grunt paw, I prefer my woodland camouflage. But I got to tell you, that Red Dawn Russian one was cool. Even though that wasn't a real one, but that was freaking cool.
What are your thoughts on Arrow's multiple handgun lockup attaching methods?
Multiple handgun?
Handguard, sorry. Multiple handguard lockup attaching methods.
I think you're probably referring to their to the receiver that the handguard goes right to. It's an excellent design. Aero Precision has always been sort of on the cusp for having handguards that are multiple pieces and bolt into one. If you look at if you go real back to the early days of Armalite with Mark Westrom, the SPR, which was a one-piece upper receiver, and you could configure the handguards differently. That was a collaboration between Armalite and Aero. They're extremely nice. I think they call them the E1 design or M4 E1 or whatever it's called. But it's beautiful. Everything that comes out of Aero is beautiful. There's not one part that they've put out that I can tell you anything bad about. I've built a lot of rifles over the years using using Aero parts. I've never had a bad part that came out of there. They picked up their barrel line. Their barrel line is awesome as well. They're an OEM. A lot of these manufacturers who you spend a lot of money for, a lot of those receivers and stuff will come from Aero. Is the ones who's manufacturing for the OEM. So Aero is a big player.
Levi does not like the Q&As. He's down whining. Maybe lose my question, Levi. What's your thoughts on Croatian VHS F2 rifle?
I've got to see him actually in Croatia. I've actually been in Croatia a couple times. They're pretty neat. I have not had a chance to. That's probably the only bullpup I've never had a chance to fire. It looks really impressive. It looks very, very well made. It looks a little easier to use, definitely easier to use than the AUG and the FAMAS. I probably would put it very closer, more sort of the Tavor. But there was neat. Yeah, at the booth, they had the rifle submerged in water, and they had lights in the water and everything, and they were just sitting in the water the whole time. It's a rifle that I would love to get my hands on. That's something, you got to try to talk Springfield Armory into importing and manufacturing 922R parts for. I think it would sell it rather well because you're already working with the same company, H2 product. I think it's called for their pistols, XD series. I don't know why they don't try to bring in the rifle. I think it would be a really nice seller.
Well, we're almost halfway in if you want to do your announcement.
Well, we're going to be having another great interview.
In
addition to Mark Westrom and Lewis Machine Tool and Carl Lewis.
Did we even tell them about Mark Westrom?
Yes. We are going to be having Monty LeClaire from Centurion Arms. He's going to spend a Monday with us. We're hoping to get out to the range and see him make some of his rifles do some magic. And we're going to be doing an interview with him. I am also extremely excited about Monty. Monty, to me, is a hero. He is a SEAL. He has served Afghanistan and Iraq. He worked at Crane as the voice of the Navy for Special Warfare Small Arms. He was part of many of these important programs that you know about. And he makes some of the finest guns out there in the industry, and he makes guns and parts that he would use. And he ran Centurion Arms from active duty, having his wife run the day-to-day operations. He's a good friend and somebody I look up to, and I think does great work. So I'm extremely excited to be able to have him on here.
So during the NRA showtime, in addition to being at the NRA show, I haven't been to a gun show in 20 years.
Well, she gonna get baptism by fire.
Well, I went to SHOT Show. I've been to a couple SHOT shows. Yeah, filming is going to be on a whole other level of filming that. But then we have interviews with Carl Lewis and Mark Westrom and now Monty. And so, yeah, it's going to be a lot.
It's just awesome being able to have this up in Houston where everybody's going to be here already, and just getting them to take the time out of their day to come out. These are CEOs of companies. These are presidents of companies who are actually taking their time off to come here to my home and do this. Is pretty cool. I'm very happy. But again, I've worked with these guys all for many years.
Yeah, don't you? You're getting one of Centurion is having you. We're going to be doing a video on a Centurion.
Yeah, Centurion has a lot of parts that they're on closeout because they're bringing out newer parts. So it's going to be bringing a lot of savings to you guys. So once we get all those parts in, and we're going to be doing a video showing what all that new stuff is, where you guys can save some money.
So that'll be good. I want my kids learning about arms history. If you ever decide to offer narrated children's stories with your captivating voice, you'll take my money.
Years and years ago, Small Arms Review did coloring books that were for kids that had gun inventors in
Are
them.
you serious?
Yeah.
Oh my God. I'm surprised you didn't get those for our children.
I don't know if they still have them or not, but it has gun owners or gun inventors and, important guys and what they invented and stuff on it. But I don't know if they still have it or not.
With our first daughter, he did give me patches for like Glock and stuff.
And she had a onesie that had a Glock on it.
He would make me sew them on onesies so that he could take different pictures of her repping different gun companies. It's so weird to think about it now. Well, this goes with what Andy's saying. He said he's watching with his 4-month-old. Hard to believe he's sitting still. He must enjoy hearing old gun grumps.
Maybe
talk.
I just look funny.
That's a good sign for my years going forward, I guess.
Kids mostly like me. I guess they guys look funny.
Well, somebody sent us a photo on Instagram.
Oh, I remember that was adorable.
Message. I don't know if you know which one I'm talking about.
I know.
It was a baby in a.
Oh, no, different one.
Yeah, it was a baby in a like a little exit saucer thing, and was watching Chris on the TV, and she said that he loves to watch you. I was like, okay, we're getting some newer, younger subscribers. Do you believe it would be worthwhile for HK to modernize the MP5 roller delay system with aluminum forgings, including an improved beveled magwell, a mag catch, modular ergonomics, and ambi controls?
No. It's outdated. The system's outdated. There's much better options out there. Some things do just become obsolete, as time goes. You look at the original cars back in the 1920s. And look to a modern car, you just have an evolution sometimes, and evolution, designs get surpassed. That's where the MP5 and all those roller delay guns are. They are. It's been an evolutionary change of many, many years. It had its time, but technology goes on, and I don't think there's anything that you could do to that gun to bring it into the modern world. The triggers, pretty much sucks by today's standards. The human engineering is light years away. It's old. But your ability to manipulate like an MPX or even a Scorpion or all that kind of stuff, being able to reload quickly, everything is just faster. It's more ergonomic. It's faster. It's more efficient. The only thing really on the MP5 that I have to say, there's two things that I like about it. Is the barrel material is awesome. The cold hammer forged barrels, the polygon rifling, and the magazines. The magazines are easy to load. They're good, but heavy and expensive. It's one of the things that really amazes me of something that's so old that is outdated, but it costs more than everything that's modern, and it's not as good. That always amazes me.
Brian on DonorBox, thank you, Brian. Building a SP1 style tribute to my grandfather who passed away on Tuesday. I'm so sorry,
I'm sorry to hear that.
How is the Brownells A1 furniture?
Nice. If you go on Gunbroker, you can find some original parts. They're going to be a lot more expensive. But if you're looking for something that's just going to give you that zest and you're not really nitpicking, it does just fine. If you're more of a purist like some of us who we care about every single detail, then you'll go looking for the original stuff. But overall, my son and I got one. I built up him one of those for his 13th birthday. One of the Brownells A1s works great for him.
And that's also a really great way to support SAS too. If you don't donate to the channel and you just really enjoy watching the videos, if you do decide to purchase anything from Palmetto State or Brownells, if you go to smallarmsolutions.com and click on any of those banner ads and then make your purchase through there, we'll get a 3% commission, and that's a really great way to support. And you should probably do that anyway, not even just for us, but any of your 2A channels that you watch and you get that information from, because it keeps us going, because ad revenue's down, and right now commissions are down 90% because there hasn't been any guns or ammo. So you can't really make commissions off stuff that you can't sell. Any thoughts on the rare breed trigger?
Never used it. My triggers, basically in all my guns, most of them are the standard mil spec triggers. Centurion has a very nice 2-stage trigger, and Geisley triggers are awesome, and I have Hyperfire. Those are the main ones that I use.
In general, will 223.556 starting powder charges and published reloading data cycle an AR-15 reliably?
Yes. What's really interesting is if you look at over the years, I got reloading manuals that go back to when I was a kid, because I was hand loading when I was 14 years old. I used a Winchester 748 ball powder all those years, And you go from manual to manual, and you would see different weights for different velocities. It was really a pain in the ass. So over the years, I worked out. I remember 26.8 grains of 748 with a 55 grain full metal jacket, and I just stayed with that. Cycle the gun always 100%, no pressure signs. That's really what you got to look for is pressure signs, and it's always better to start on the lower end and work your way up. But I use that forever. Same thing with pistols. 231 ball powder. I use 231 ball powder for 9mm, 40 and 45. It worked great for all those. And then I remember loading 357 Magnum. I loaded that with Winchester 296. And then I can recall when I first started doing the 308 after I got my SR25, going to IMR 4895. I can remember all that, but I can always remember you're seeing the differences in those manuals. You even see some powders that weren't even in there. One company would have the powder and one wouldn't. So it's a little difficult. There is a difference from lot to powder, but shouldn't be that much.
And thank you, Leon, for saying that. And he said you can also do your Amazon shopping through SAS. Also, if you use any of the Amazon links in our description boxes for the products that are listed from Amazon, because that is the only place that you can list, because they don't sell guns and ammunition. So we do list certain products that go along with the video there. And you can also use the SAS armors, or not the armors, the Amazon store that we have with all of Chris's favorite gun treatments and kit that is sold through Amazon, and sometimes the prices are lower than Brownells. In fact, his favorite tool that everyone always asks about, so I put it in the link in every single video, is on Amazon, and I believe it's actually quite a bit cheaper on Amazon. So even if you don't even buy those products, you can still click on that link, and if you made other purchases, we would get a 3% commission. So it definitely helps. How accurate would you think an LMT DMR rifle with a New Zealand rifle with match ammo be? I bought but haven't taken to the range yet.
Well, I would definitely expect them to be well under 2 MOA, as long as you're doing your job and you're using the proper ammunition, and there's a very good chance that you could do sub MOA with it. It's hard to ever, these are not guns like the SR25 where they're going to guarantee you 1 MOA because they're matched rifles. What you have to understand is the LMT rifle that you're getting is a combat rifle. It's a chrome plated barrel. It's not designed for precision accuracy. It's designed for combat. Now, I've got ones here that will shoot sub MOA. I got other ones that are around a minute and a half in that area there. But you put Mark 262 in there, you'll get the best. If you use Mark 262 and you're doing your job, you will see what the best that the rifle can do is using that combination.
Eric on Donnerbox, thank you, Eric. Do you use the Surefire bore alignment rods to align any of your suppressors after mounting? And do you recommend using the Surefire bore alignment rods to check the alignment of a mounted suppressor?
Well, I do have those gauges. I have to say the only time I really ever use those is on non-American made guns. If it's something that I know it's not CNC made, you could have constant intensity issues. The last time I used those was on a couple of AKs that I suppressed, just to be sure. But most of the time when you're using modern, precision barrels, they're not necessary. It's only really necessary when you're trying to suppress something where you're not quite sure. If you have them, why not use them? Are they absolutely necessary for, say you buy a LMT or an Arrow or something like that? No, I mean, you're getting those precision barrels. They're everything's precisionally concentric. It's everything. It's just some of those four ones. If you got to use it, but under normal circumstances, it's not necessary.
Tad on Donnerbox, thank you, Tad. He said he finally saw Red Dawn, the 1984 version.
I don't know how you could not see that.
He just saw it.
And a classic.
He said he's got to say it was awesome, but doesn't make a lick of sense if you actually think about the logistics and geography.
Actually, that's not true. You go back to 1984, that was based off an actual CIA scenario of how the Russians could invade the American mainland. That wasn't just dreamed up by somebody in Hollywood. That actually was a scenario how in 1984 the Soviets could invade this country. And a lot of it had to do a little bit with how they invaded Afghanistan. There was ways for as far as with the paratroopers and commercial airlines. No, that was not.
Okay, well, let's get to this question. If you were in a Red Dawn scenario, would you rather take a super rugged and simple bolt action rifle or an AR knowing if a part breaks or is lost, the gun is useless and resupply is impossible?
Same thing can happen to a bolt action, and the parts are harder to change out. I keep spare parts for those, and the reality is the parts that are going to break, the rifle will be gone before then. It'll be shot out. The biggest problem would be losing parts, and our troops have been carrying these things for over 60 years. That hasn't been a problem.
Your Centurion Arms Mark 12, do you have a problem with gas in your face when suppressed?
You will. No, it's not bad, but you will. Any gun that you use suppressed, you will get gas in your face. That's an AR platform because of the way the back is open. That's just part of the animal. With the Marines switching over with their M4s to suppressed, it just utterly amazes me because they're going to be getting that in their face. Now, if they're wearing goggles, like those big goggles, it's not going to be an issue. But a lot of guns you get a lot of gas coming back at you. It's just the nature of the beast.
Matt on DonorBox, thank you, Matt. You mentioned evolutionary changes in firearms. Is Glock still the king of polymer-framed striker-fired pistols? With so many options on the current market, do you see a pistol that may surpass the Glock? And what do you think will be the next evolutionary change in handguns?
Glock, I think, is on dangerous ground because they've been doing the exact same thing since 1985. If you look at the guns overall, they really haven't changed much except for aesthetics. Overall, the guns, the Gen 5 has gotten some updates, but it's the same thing. You look at other companies that are out there with polymer frames. I mean, even like the USP, and even like the VP9s. You look at the Masadas. There's a lot of guns that are coming out that are less expensive, that are more modular. You look at something like the SIG P320, where you do have more of an ability to, the next evolution could very well be considered the removable chassis. And Glock's attitude with the, perfection, I think they're on dangerous ground of being left behind because they have not done a lot of innovation. I mean, you can't stay with the same. Look at Colts. The Colts done over the years. They've pretty much stuck with the exact same gun since 1995. And other people have left them completely in the dust. Glock very, very well could find themselves in the same situation if they don't do something with starting to make some things that are different. The fact that they're as durable as they are, and the lower price that they have has helped them out a lot. But you're seeing a lot of companies who are coming in and doing similar things for low prices now too, which are giving them a run for their money.
Any thoughts on Roscoe barrels and BCG?
Roscoe barrels, they're good. They're one of Colt subcontractors. So they obviously can do military grade barrels. I'm not familiar with Roscoe bolt carriers. I'm only familiar with the barrels.
Jim Sullivan once called out Carl Lewis as a very fine AR-15 builder. Do you know Jim?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I met Jim Sullivan a couple times. He's an interesting fellow. The only thing I could potentially say about him that's somewhat negative is the fact that when he talked about his work he did on the AR-15, he was a lot quieter when Gene Stoner was still alive. After Gene Stoner had passed, he started saying, well, I did more and more and more and more. I developed the AR-15 and everything. So like I said, he was a lot more vocal after Stoner died. And I'm going to tell you the reality is the AR-10 rifle, Gene Stoner told his engineers, his draftsmen, scale my design down to fire 5.56. That's what they did. That was Stoner's design. It wasn't designed by Sullivan or anybody else. It was his design that they had scaled down. They did the same thing with the AR-18. You take my AR-16 and scale it down to 5.56. So I think sometimes people are a lot more vocal when their supervisors do die. Jim Sullivan to this day is still very active in design work. He really never had anything like the AR-15 that was ever adopted of his. He did the Mini 14. He's done some magazines. He did this newer boat carrier, which is supposed to lower cyclic rate. He did the Surefire magazines. He's definitely still working. He did the Ultimax 5.56 belt-fed machine gun. It was oddly enough, he did an interview on television, and he had my book on his desk. I'll never forget that he had Black Rifle 2 sitting on his desk when he did the interview. But that's just a little bit of background that I know of.
Thank you, Jay Ford.
Thank you.
I think that's a pair flying. I'm sure that they don't have gun emojis for.
Yeah, I'm sure those are illegal.
Yeah. What do you think of the sealed KE Arms HK416 influence trigger? I
have to say I haven't seen that one.
I need to look it up.
Yeah, yeah. The HK triggers for the MR 5.56s are fairly special because of them being able to put the safety on while the hammer's forward. Now, LMT's new triggers will be doing that too because that was a requirement of the Estonia Army. So LMT's triggers will be now switching over to the same type where you're going to be able to engage with the hammer forward. But the HK416 selective fire trigger is no different than a regular M16 trigger. I'm not familiar with that one. Did not use that one. Yeah, these are a lot more of the commercial area things that I haven't really messed around too much with. Again, I look at things more for military applications, so I don't look at those things as much. Occasionally do, but maybe it's something I might want to start looking into is some more of those types of things. Yeah, I was really surprised how well the video went on the what Colt makes and you can't have it. It was really interesting. I think we have a guy from Colt who comes on there, and he talks every once and again. Nice guy. And he had talked about we were talking about the M5, why Colt won't make M5s for the commercial market, and he was talking a lot about the burdens it would be for as far as switching over and things. And I have to say I disagree with him on that. It's not true at all that it's difficult. You would, if you were wanting to make a commercial version of the M5, you would do the exact same things you did with the production line of the M4 when they made the LE6920s. When you were currently manufacturing M4s at Colt, their production line, and they get an order, okay, we're gonna make 1,000 6920s today, because those rifles were nearly identical. The M4 and 6920. The managers that morning would go down to the assembly line. They go to where the trigger assemblies were. They would remove all the parts for selective fire, then they would drop in the parts for the semi-automatic only. Done for the lower receiver. Then they would go over to the barrel line, remove the 14.5-inch barrels, and replace them with 16-inch barrels. And then, of course, you have the semi-automatic only lower receivers. So literally, there is nothing to switching over when you're already geared up. So for commercial use, if you wanted to make an M5 for the commercial market, you would do the exact same thing. You would just have a semi-automatic only lower receiver without the pocket and the hole in it for the receiver. You would just swap out for the hammer trigger disconnector, same pins, same springs, everything. Then the upper receiver, you would only switch out the barrel. So it's not really an excuse on Colt's part that it causes issues with them for as far as a burden to make them for the commercial market. It doesn't. Not when you have guns where you're making the exact same gun just with the longer barrel and semi-automatic only configuration. But the guy who was on there from Colt, he's certainly a nice guy. I'm sure he wants to defend his employer and all that kind of stuff. But I can tell you from working there and seeing how they would switch over from things, it's not like you're switching a whole different stock, a whole different bolt carrier group. All that stuff stays the same. You're just swapping out barrel, fire control mechanism, and the lower receivers, making them semi-automatic only, which has never been a problem for them in the past. So they do have the opportunity, but they just don't do it. And I don't get why, because they would make so much money. And it's funny because that video was not really about bashing Colt as much. I'm basically praising stuff that they've done that it's awesome. It's just that they won't sell it to the commercial market. They're cutting them totally out. That's really what that was about. I'm praising they've done some really cool shit here. They could make a lot of money and people want it, but they won't sell it.
Which would you prefer, an M1 Grand or an FN49, and reasons why? And he says, thank you for what you do.
Well, I probably would say the M1 Grand. And if I had a choice, at M14 over that, just because of the box magazine. The M1 Garand with its the way the sights are on it, it's an extremely accurate rifle. Um, it's hard looking. It's hard looking. It's hard going back to those things now. If you were when the day when those things were being developed, were being used, it's a much better time to ask somebody that. When you're looking at stuff now, you're looking at obsolete technology. So it's hard to go back and say, okay, this, because I'm thinking about more modern weapons. But the M1 Garand was an excellent rifle. Its biggest crux was them going with 8 rounds instead of a detachable box magazine, which they could have done, and that was a failure on the Army's part, not Garand's part.
What is your thoughts on trend now where everyone is building retro carbines, fixed carry handles, big red dots on top?
I think it's really neat because people are saying, you know what, let's go back to the basics. You know, you go back to the M16A1, for instance. You're looking at a 6 pound rifle. When they came out. So let's take a look at an M16A1 carbine, 14.5 inch barrel, probably what 6.2 pounds, 6.3 pounds. You look at that rifle, what it was made for, lightweight combat rifle. Nothing can go wrong with it. And now let's go forward to say 2018, global war on terror. You're looking at an M4 carbine, which probably weighs about 10, 11 pounds, because now you have rails, you have the flat tops, you have optics, you have backups, you have you have lasers on them, you have flashlights, you have all these accessories. So now you're looking at the same size rifle, all modernized, which weighs almost double what it was. So there's something to be said about going back to the more simple times. And I love the retro stuff. You guys see the videos. I absolutely love it. My favorite gun and the whole M16 family is the XM16E1, even though it was problematic. There's something about that first rifle the first battle again, the U.S. against the North Vietnamese. Just something about it. Brownells has been very successful with the retro line. There's a lot of people out there who appreciate it. I mean, you have a lot of veterans still to this day who used A1s and everything, who their kids, give their fathers rifles, the same rifle that they carried when they were in. One day they're probably going to be doing that for us, with our M16A2s that when I served in my time. And then these younger guys, who knows what's going to happen later on down the road? Someone's going to say, "Hey, we're going to make you the rifle that you carried." It's I think a lot of times what's old is new. And I think the other thing is too, the more these companies who are doing these guns, the more they're getting these things so and so correct. They're getting into those little details like Brownells did with, the old obsolete parts. And unfortunately, it's expensive to take old obsolete parts and rebuild and build them. Because you're not going to be selling them by the tens of thousands like you are the current parts. So it's a cost to do that kind of stuff. But some companies have done it. I think it's freaking awesome.
I just picked up an L&T CQB monolithic upper based on your video. What barrel do you recommend for it? Is the 16-inch still your favorite?
Yes, it is. 16-inch for as far as that with a 77 grain or 62 grain bullet for range and velocity is my favorite. However, if you want to go with the SBR, you can certainly go with these 14.5 inch or the 12.5 or 10.5, whichever gas system that you're going to use. Using the right ammunition, you'll be fine with all of them. But overall, I mean, if you look at that New Zealand rifle, to me, that's the ideal combat rifle for me. That would be the exact configuration that I would take, out of my collection here if I had something to defend myself. It's got every feature in it that I would want. Ideal.
Are the Marines going to use the new Trijicon VCOG 1 and 8 for the M4A1?
I'm not sure exactly what they're going to be using. I know they bought a shit ton of them, so I'm guessing that it would be across the board. As you know, the Marines are trying to get more of those IARs, the M27s, which, again, I can't wrap my head around the fact that they want to spend that kind of money for a gun that's not going to last as long as the M4, that has problems with the M855A1, and that when you look at the gun for as far as its capabilities, an M4A1 with a SOCOM barrel will get you probably better longevity and better cook-off values than the HK will. I'll never understand the IAR program the way the Marines conducted it, because there is no mechanical way that the HK 416 could have beat the Colt. There is no way. If you were to look at the the Colt IARs with their heatsink on it. There's no possible way. The destruction testing that we did on the Colt IAR at Colt, when you were looking at damn near 1,000 rounds, and it was a bolt that failed. It wasn't even the barrel. That it just kept that thing running like a kitten. Of course, once it got towards the end, would slow down a little bit because of grit and everything. But I'll never understand that. That's where there has to be politics. Another one of Colt's excellent executions. That thing lost because of politics. There's no way around it. It was politics.
What is your opinion on the Langan Tactical Beretta 1301 shotgun?
It's sort of funny you mentioned it. I was looking at that last night because I was able to contract Gabriel DePlano over Beretta because I want to do some reviews on some of the the newer Beretta pistols, and I had requested a 1301. I've not had any way to get any of those guns. There was one of my viewers who sent me one of the 92Gs, so we do have a video on that, but I've never had access to those really. I'm looking forward to doing the review on the shotgun because for me, as I've told you, I own a lot of guns. I own one shotgun, one only. That's the Benelli M1014. I can't see any reason to own anything else with that. There are some that will say that the Bretta is just as good, if not better. Well, all I know is the Benelli M4 or M1014 is used all over the world by special operations and regular military. So far as I know, the Beretta 1301 has only been used by 3-gun people. It's not. I don't know if it's military grade like the Benelli is. So I'm curious to take a look at it. And for those more customized ones, I'd like to get my hands on one.
What will be your 9mm PCC go-to manufacturer wise?
I don't have what you call brand loyalty. I have specific models, so I won't go off of the manufacturer. I have two. My main go-to one would be my MPX SBR, and if I couldn't have that, tell you the truth, it would be my my Scorpion SBR. Those are my two go-tos for pistol carbines.
No, Chris does not shoot sporting clays. He likes to shoot human silhouettes.
Yeah. Never gonna get attacked by a clay bird.
He's not a hunter either. He would never shoot anything living.
I'm an animal lover.
Yeah. What year do you think that Bushmaster started to diminish in quality?
I'm trying to think of when Freedom Group picked them up and when they moved out of. Unfortunately, I can't tell you. I want to say it was sometime. No, I'm not even going to say because I don't know. I pretty much stopped buying Bushmaster after they left Wyndham. And as I said, there were problems all through. I do know that it had to have been.
Somebody said, I think in the 90s.
No, it was after that. It was after that because I remember.
They're saying when they were bought out.
Yeah, because I remember dealing with when I was at the crime lab in Milwaukee, so that had to be around 2001.
Tayus is saying the year they switched states.
Yeah, 2001. There was a time where Colt was heavy in the military contracts and law enforcement couldn't buy any of their guns, the LE guns. So I sent them over to Israel.
Somebody said 2006.
Yeah, that makes sense because I was at Wisconsin from 2000 2005. I sent them the Capitol Police to Bushmaster, and they were still dealing with Israel, and Israel didn't go with Bushmaster after they left to Cerberus. So yeah, that sounds about right.
They bought out Bushmaster in 2006. You just looked it up.
Okay, that makes sense.
Thank you, because I didn't want to try to Google it because I probably wouldn't have spelled that correctly anyway.
Yeah, I don't look like a jackass and throw out a number if I'm not sure.
Yeah. Thoughts on the Bren 2 and 7.62x39?
I have great thoughts on it. I want to get one to test. I love the way the magazines work on them. I know Tim Moore, Military Image Channel, he had tried to repeat a problem they were talking about with the extraction and ejection. I don't know if that's something that they ever fixed or anything, but it was something Tim had to work really hard to reproduce it. But that's something that I do hope to get at some point in here for a review. The the Bren 2 series I absolutely love. it's a scar killer.
Do you consider Radian to be, quote, just as good as Knights and LMT, or are they more of a boutique AR maker?
They are more of a boutique AR maker. They don't have the military contracts, but I think they make one of the sweetest lower receivers in the industry. But they do machining art. They do a beautiful job.
Doesn't the SCAR beat the AR in every way?
No. If that was the case, SOCOM would be using the SCAR right now. They don't. The SCAR 16 failed. It failed horribly. And that's why you see they did adopt the SCAR Heavy, because it filled that need for a 7.62. But now the SCAR Light never. Once Colt got their shit together with the bolts and got them going, even the SEALs preferred the M4A1 in every way over the SCAR 16. SCAR 17 was a success because it was a different type of a requirement. It wasn't to replace anything. It was to add something to the arsenal that was going to help out the global war on terror for as far as longer range shots. The SCAR 16, it really came out of when they were having problems with the M4. Colt got those problems corrected and under control. And once the SOCOM heavy barrel came out and they got their act together with the heat treating on the bolts, the issues that SOCOM was having went away. So there was no need for it, and there was problem after problem with the SCAR 16 in testing. Overall, the SCAR 16 has not done that great. There's been some international militaries who've gone with them, but overall, main militaries, not so good.
What is the benefits of carbine length gas system versus a pistol length in a 10.5-inch barrel?
You don't do that in a 5.56. It's not a good idea. It does work in a 300 blackout because of the fact that you're using subsonic ammunition. The way the propellant's going to burn is different. You're going to have your peak at a much closer distance because you have to use a faster burning powder. You don't want it at all in a 5.56. If you're using that on there, you're going to have such high port pressures and high bolt velocities that it won't be a good situation at all. But the reason why you see the pistol length is for the 300 blackout. Now, if you were in an optimal world, if you were to buy 300 blackout and say, I'm never going to use a suppressor and I'm not going to use subsonic ammunition, you are far better off going with a carbine length gas system with that ammunition. It'd be far more reliable, and also going with a 1-in-7-inch barrel versus, 1-in-10, 1-in-10.5-inch twist barrel. If you want to make it do both, that's why you have to go with the carbine length gas system. So it's slightly overgassed with the supersonic, and it's overstabilized with the rifling that's designed for the heavier. So you're trying to put it in the middle. You're far better off having one designated for one and one for the other, so you can have the optimal performance out of the cartridge for reliability and accuracy.
Don't forget to hit the like button, guys. We have a question on Donor Box. I'm not going to say your name because I don't want to butcher it. Have you come around to the Strike Industries adjustable gas block? Do adjustable gas blocks really help with blowback?
No, it's not designed to help you with blowback. What it's designed is to decrease the amount of gas going in, so you're not beating up your gun. You're only using as much gas. It helps you with recoil, but for as far as the blowback is concerned, when you have a baffled suppressor, it's blowing all that gas back into the barrel. So you have gases coming as a cartridge case is extracting. It's blowing gas out the chamber. So nothing you're going to do is going to prevent that. The adjustable gas is to regulate the speed, the velocity of the bolt carrier.
I know you're not fond of the current production 6920s. How do you feel about current production 6940s?
Well, the 6940, at least, there's no aftermarket. Well, Colt does not make the 6940s the uppers in house. At least I don't think they ever did. In fact, when I was there, they were being made by Adcor. They have a subcontractor that makes them. The lower receivers, same as the CR6920. Barrels, same as the CR6920. Bolt carriers, same as the CR6920. The only real difference is going to be is your upper receiver, your barrel extension, your gas block. Those are your main differences between the 6940 and the 6920. So they're going to be about the same. But it's they can't just go out and buy that one piece upper receiver from somebody else and throw it together. They literally have to have it made to their specifications.
Okay, guys. Well, we're going to shut it down for tonight. Thank you guys for joining us. We probably see you again next Thursday. Same time, same place. Thanks for everybody who donated. We really appreciate it.
Thank you all very much.
And just for spending an hour with us. We hope we got a lot of questions asked and answered. Thank you, Steve.
Thank you. Hey, you guys have a good night. Thank you.